Begin the current Daf Mesechtes Bava Metzia Daf Chavhei. We begin in the bottom of Chavdal Mabeis, where the 2 lines up on the bottom of the Amud, where the Gemara continues to halacha the next Mishnah, which we were started off this parak Il Metzia Shaloi. These are the found things that you keep for yourself, and now we segue. Says the Mishnah regarding Ilu Chayv Lahachers, certain things that no, you cannot keep, and you have to call out. And the Mishnah identifies what are some of those cases. Turn to today's dash throughout the entire world. Very quickly. So discussing today's daf, like we said, about ilu chayv lahachers, certain things that you have to call out. If there is a siman and they're not mayayish, so that would be the criterion that you would have to call it out. A case that we discussed at length is matzah kli ulafan of peiros. If you find a vessel and in front of it is peiros, so how do you qualify the peiros? You have a siman in the kli, but not in the peiros, and the peiros are not in the kli. So what's the halacha with those peiros? In siman matbeya, you can't have a siman for a coin. People spend money, and it's not necessarily a siman that it's yours. If you have 3 coins one on top of the other, it depends in its formation. If it's dasuin migdalin, if it's made like a tower, then that is a siman. But whereas if it's not made like migdalin, then that would not be considered as a siman. Any time that you're not sure if someone put something down, initially you shouldn't take it. The guy put it there, he's coming back to get it. If you took it, then you don't put it back. And we'll discuss exactly the reason why. We used to discuss regarding if you find a vessel in the garbage dump. It depends what type of garbage dump, depends what's going on, if you should take it, and if you have to call it out. So begin the current daf. Daf Chav Dalet Amud Beis, second line up from the bottom of the Amud. Says the Mishnah, Ve'elu chayev lahachritz. And these are the things you have to call out, as we have some nice pictures illustrating this. Matzah peiros bekli. If you find fruits, let's shine the peiros dish, the gaba left it somewhere in the street. You find peiros in a kli. Now, stam kli, Rashi tells us, has a siman, and that's the reason why if you find peiros in a kli, it's one of those things you would have to call out. Oy kli kameishu. Or no, if you find just a bowl, a vessel empty as it is, again, we presume that a bowl would be something that would have a siman. Or mo'is bekis, or it's Purim, and you're running around, and you find money in a wallet, which again, we presume that someone's wallet has a siman, like kis kamaishu, or just the wallet as it is, if with nothing inside of it, or tzibure peiros, you find a pile of fruits, or tzibure mo'is, or a pile of money, which the Gemara is going to explain what is the siman over here, because there's no siman in the apples or in the money itself. It's either going to be the minyan, the number, or the place of where it is. So why does it have to be tzibori? Because that just shows that it didn't fall. That shows that it was deliberately placed over there, so the guy could identify the place, or again the number of apples or monies that there were over there. Now it's continuing top of Chavhei Amud Aleph. If let's say you have shleisha matbeos ze al gav ze, if you have 3 coins, one on top of the other, Gemara is going to explain exactly what's the siman of that. Or kriches b'shus hayachid, which these are the inverse of the previous Mishnah. We spoke about kriches b'shus harabim, that it's haril shaloi. Here we're talking about small bundles in a private domain, which the siman could even be. It depends. There was a machlekes over there, but let's say even the malkim could be a siman. Or the kikorish al balabais, also the inverse of the previous Mishnah. We spoke about kikorish al nachtam. There's no siman if you get from Hershey's Bakery. They all look the same. But if you made it, Leitru made it, or Riftru made it, so then that's the kikarish al balbais, that would have a siman. Or the gizit temen is also the inverse. We spoke about sharings of wool halakuchen mimedinasam. We spoke about that's from in the countryside. It wasn't manufactured at all. It wasn't processed, so it looks the same. But if you take meveso umen from the craftsman, meaning he already processed it, now it already has his stempel. It already has his identifying features on it. Or kadeyain v'kadeshemen, which we explained this also on the Chav Gimel, that we said that it's Rosham. We said that there's a seal on it in the jugs of wine and jugs of oil, which again is an identifying feature. All these, you would have to call it out. Now the Gemara asks on the opening case of our Mishnah. We said, if matzah peiros bekli or mois bekis, we said that then you would have to call it out. So ask the Gemara, timer, it sounds like the reason is the matzah peiros bekli. You found, as the picture here illustrates, you found the fruits in the vessel, or mois bekis, or the money is in the wallet. Then you say, the one who finds it can keep the peiros. Now, even though, that's where you say that the peiros belong to the balakli. Where you say, like, even though there's no siman in the peiros, but it's in the bowl. There's no siman in the money, but it's in the wallet. If you found money or peiros, you'd be able to keep it. But it's in the wallet or in the vessel, then you have to call it out. So it sounds like kli ulafan of peiros. So you have over here, like this picture shows, you have a kli and you have in front of it peiros. Or kiss ulafan of mice. You have a wallet in front of his money. What's the halacha going to be over there? Hare elu shaloi. The one who finds it could keep the peiros. So even though the kli is going to the one that brings the siman, you give back the kli, but the peiros you keep it for yourself. We don't say that the peiros of the money fell from that vessel. Says the Gemara Tanina, what we learned in the Mishnah supports Lahad Tan Rabban, and this is what we learned in the Brisa. The Brisa says this explicitly. The Brisa says, Motzikli, if you find the vessel ulafan of peiros, and in front of it is peiros, or kiss, you found a wild ulafan of moiser of his money. You could keep the money, you could keep the peiros. But says the Brisa, if Miktsasan b'kli u'miktsasan b'karka. If some of it is in the vessel and some of it is on the ground, u'miktsasan b'kis u'miktsasan b'karka, some of the money is in the wallet and some of it is on the ground. So that proves that the money or the fruits that are on the ground, it's the same one from the wallet or from the bowl. So then you would have to return it to the one who gives a siman of the kli, and also the money to the one who gives a siman for the wallet. But the problem with this is that it seems to contradict another brisa. The brisa says, if you find something, which all these beautiful fruits, you find the b'tzad davar shesh b'siman on the side of something that has a siman, where, for example, let's say you have money in front of a wallet. Chayav lahachres, says the brisa, you have to announce the whole thing, and you give the money to the one who you're giving back the wallet to. Well, that obviously contradicts what we said, that if it's outside the vessel, it's outside the wallet, you don't have to give it back. Now, however, says the Brisa, if Ba'al Siman, if the one who's giving the Siman comes along with Natal Eshaloi, and he takes only the wallet, and he says the money is not mine, okay, Zachala Badavar, then the guy who finds it could keep the money, She'em Siman, which doesn't have a Siman. But if he doesn't explicitly say that, we're going to give him the fruits, we're going to give him the money. Well, that contradicts the dig from our Mishnah and the previous brisa that said that if it's in front, then you, in other words, if you that if it's in front, you don't give it back because it has to be in the vessel. But this brisa says that no, you do give it back. How to resolve the contradiction? So the Gemara gives 4 different approaches how to resolve this contradiction. He says, "Look, it's not a difficulty. Why? This that we learned in our Mishnah." The dig from our Mishnah, the first brisa, that hare elu shaloi, that you could keep the fruits, you could keep the money, is bekuva v'kisna. It's with a barrel and flax. So you have the barrel laying over there, and you have flax in front of it. Definitely, this flax is not from the barrel, because if it fell from the barrel, some of it would have remained inside of it. And the same thing is, as the picture here illustrates, is the wallet, and you have some money in front of it. For the same reason that if the money would have been from the wallet, some of the money would have stayed in the wallet. Not all of it would have fell out. Just like kuba v'kisna, the sum of the flax, some of it falls, it stays inside. Meaning, at least we presume so. Meaning, in contrast to the second brisa that said you would have to return it even though it's totally outside of it, is bitsana upere, is a basket with produce, where if you have like these fruits, they could slip out. They could the whole thing, all the watermelons, all the apples could fall out. They're not such a substance that has a texture that would stay in necessarily. They would roll out. It's a basket. The basket turns over. All of it comes flying out. So therefore, it depends what the item is.
And it's interesting how Rashi explains that if it's kuba v'kisna,
right,
then something would have stayed.
Yeah.
Also money.
Right, for the same reason.
The same brisa from which he tries to differentiate the brisa, the first brisa that we brought, it says mutzikli from the Paris.
Yeah. So the shayla is what type of peiros?
No, so I'm talking about the kiss of the of Moors. Rashi said that if the money would have been from that kiss, then it would have
right.
Would have remained.
That's why you could. That's why you could keep it, and you don't say it belongs to the owner of the wallet, because only time you give back the money if some of the money is in the wallet. If it all fell out, then we say, must have not been from the wallet. That's Harei Shalai. The one who finds it could keep it. That's exactly the halacha. Harei Shalai, the one who finds it, he could keep it. Why? The second brayso says you can't. Oh, the second brayso is talking about something else. The second brayso is talking about fruits where that could all spill out. But we would assume that it's from the basket. So that's one approach. But Papa Amar, he gives a different approach. He says no. They're both talking about a basket with produce. Well, kasha is not difficulty because the second brayso says that you have to give back even the fruits. Is the shtai b'midi? Some of it, the brayso doesn't say it explicitly, but some of it remained inside. So you could say that what's on the outside also fell from the basket. The first brayso says you could keep is the lo yishtar b'midi, that none of it remained inside. And since generally a basket has some type of a lip that's doubled over inside of it, if it fell from what was inside, some of it would have remained because the lip stops it, and the fact that nothing remained inside, therefore, Taisa says difficult, Rashi says different, but that's our Rashi, and therefore we say okay, none of it was left in, then you could keep it. That's the second approach, even though they're both talking about Sani Peri. If you want, you could say Havaha Deloy Yishtar Bamidi. Both are talking about that nothing remained inside. But Kash is not difficult. Why? So says the Gemara, because the second Bryce that says that you have to give back, even if all the pears are totally outside, is the Mahadri Apel, like this picture illustrates. Which way is it facing? If the opening of the bowl is facing where the fruits are, that would seem to indicate that it fell out from the bowl, even though it's all outside. So therefore, you have to give it back to the owner of the bowl. The first Bryce was that said you could keep it. It's the Mahadri Apel. It's not facing the same direction, and therefore, again, that would say that we would not assume that it's from the bowl, and therefore you could keep the fruits even though you have to give back the bowl. A fourth approach is the Gemara. No, if you want, you could say both of them are facing towards the pears. Like kasha, still not a difficulty. Why? As this picture also tries to illustrate. The first brayso says that you could keep it is the isli ugnin litzana. There's like a lip, there's a rim that's in the basket. So then it must have been that it did not fall from it, because if it fell from it, some of it would remain in that thicker lip that there is for the bowl, and none of it's inside of it. So therefore, you don't have to give it back to him. The second brayso says that you have to is the leslie ugnin latzana. There's no rim, and it's right in front of it. So yeah, it makes sense that all of it would have fell out, and therefore that's why that brayso says chayav lahachsa. That's four different approaches to resolve the contradiction of this halacha. Of is it only when it's in the kli, or even when it's out of the kli, that you would have to give back even the peiros that don't have a simon. Then we continue with the next halacha of the Mishnah. We spoke about tziboire peiros and tziboire ma'os, piles of produce, piles of money that you have to call it out. The Gemara says, Shaman Minah, where you could infer from this halacha is minyan have a simon, that the number is the number of the quantity is a simon, because if not, what simon is there? You have no simon in the peiros. You have no simon in the. It's not like you have a simon regarding any of how the pile was made. It's just a pile. So why would you say that you would have to call it out? Obviously, he gives a number of how many there were. Says, no, it's not a riot, because to me, you could read the brayso tzibur peiros, that really it can mean in general the idea of piles, but it could even mean one pile of peiros that there's no number. So meaning to say you can't say the amount of piles. That's what it sounds like from the Gemara. It's not like the number of peiros that you have over there. It's like how many piles. So there's no number over there. So if you said how many piles, it sounds like that it's not something that you give the number of what was there itself. So then what's the simon? So Shaman, you have to infer a different question. We had Mokum have a simon. Must mean that the place is a simon, because since it's piled up, it was placed down. And he could give a simon. He says, it was placed down. I put it down in that area. And we had a shaila regarding if Mokum is a simon. He says, no, to me you could read it, Tziboire peiros. No, it was piles of fruits, many piles. And the simon would be how many piles there were. As Rashi explains, it's just being matcha. It's just saying you can't resolve either one of them, because I could tell you it's that one, the other one's saying that one. It would be one of the two, but it's not definitive if the minion is a simon or the Mokum is a simon. The next case the Mishnah spoke about was another case that you have to call out is when you have 3 coins, one on top of the other. It's very appropriate, the machzah shekel, the 3 coins. So it says the Gemara, what's the reason for this when you have the 3 coins that you have to call it out? So Mitzvah Migdalah, which is interesting, his name, you find this many times, the Maratzchis, I think, says that you find that his halacha that he's known for is his name. Mitzvah Migdalah, Ushasoin Kimigdalim, because it was made like a tower. Which Gemara later on is going to explain that the 3 coins, each one is wider than the other one. And on the bottom is the widest, on it is the middle one, and on top of it is the narrowest of them all, like a tower, which is the foundation is wide, and it keeps on getting narrower and narrower as it goes higher on the top. Now, if it's placed like that, that is not the way coins usually fall. It's obviously that it's placed like that. And he had in mind to come back and take it, and he just forgot about it. So therefore you take it and you call it out, and this guy gives us a simon, he says, yes, it was made like a tower. As Gemara says, similar in the Brisa. If you find scattered coins, you could keep it for yourself. If it's made like a tower, you have to call it out. Says the Brisa, what does it mean, made like a tower? It means 3 coins which are not similar to each other in its width, one on top of the other. The Gemara says, but wait, Hagufa Kash, there seems to be a contradiction in the inference of the halachas of the Brisa, because Amit, you said, you said, if you find scattered coins, you could keep it. The inference is, the dik is, if let's say some of it is on the other coin and some of it is on the ground, it sounds like that you would have to call it out. It's not scattered. Obviously, that's not the way it falls. But in the Seifa, look at the Seifa. We said if it's made like a tower, then then you have to call it out. But it sounds like that if it's scattered, meaning it sounds like if it's like partially on and partially off, you could keep it because it's not like a tower, which is totally on and it gets narrower as it goes. So the Gemara says, no, the Tana of the Brisa, if it's not made like a tower, he calls that scattered, so it's not a diuk, and therefore, yes, the only case that you would have to call out if it's made like a tower, not mishal chafi shalchufe. Another qualification, which Gemara is going to explain, Amar B'chanina says, we didn't learn that the 3 coins that you have to call out is Elisha Shleisha Malachim. It's only if it's from 3 different kings. Now, the Gemara assumes what this means to say is, each king, the form on the coin was not the same, because every king writes his name and his graven image on his own coin. So that's when these 3 coins you would have to call it out. But if it's the same king, in the Chayv L'Achas, you have to call it out. So Gemara says, wait a second, I don't understand. Hey, Chidam, what's the case talking about? If it's made like a tower where the width are not the same, and it's placed, as we explained, even the same king, even if all the 3 coins have the same image, it doesn't make a difference. It's obviously was in the way that it's placed, and that's the simon. And it's not made like a tower. Who cares 3 different kings? How does that help regarding the identifying feature of being like a migdal? So the Gemara says, no, if he said his teaching, this is what he was saying. In other words, even if it's from the same king, that all the figures are the same on it, but it's like 3 kings, that it's different in the sense that its width is different, and therefore looks like 3 different coins, that's when you would have to call it out. What's that case talking about? As we explained, which is made like a tower, which is the widest is on the bottom, Mציעא, and the middle one is on top of it, Mציעא, and the smallest is on top of the middle one. That means we say, it must have been placed, it's not lost, and that's his siman. But if it's from the same king, the kulika dodinenu, that they're all the same in their width, then avagav de manchadodi, even though they're one on top of the other, and it's not mishal chafi, it's not even partially on, partially off. Still, a real shaloi, you would say that you could keep it because I would say that it could happen, and that it could fall one on top of the other, and therefore that's not necessarily hinuach that he placed it over there and it would be lost, and he does not have a simon because money, you can't have a simon of money, and even the place is not a simon because there's no where it fell, and therefore harei l'shaloi, that's why he's saying that you could go ahead and keep it because Eimer Isramu Isrami, I could say it happened enough, like we said, and that it fell at one shot. Okay. But Rabbi Yochanan, he disagrees. He says, no, he says, even if it's one king, meaning it's the same width, you also call it out because since you have 3 coins, one on top of the other, that is a simon, because it doesn't usually happen that 3 coins will fall exactly one on top of the other, even if it's not like a migdal, like wider, narrower, and then narrowest, even that is enough. Now, but says my machris, but what do you call out? What are you calling out? What's the guy going to give a simon for? Says the Gemara, minyan. Meaning the guy who finds it says, I found this and this amount of coins, and this guy comes and gives a simon. He says, you found it one on top of the other. So said the Gemara, if that's the case, ma'ir tlasa. Why in the Mishnah did we say 3 coins? Even 2 coins too. If the guy's calling out the number and you're just saying how it was, so why can't 2 coins be also not common? And then you could give that simon that's how you put it down. So rather, Amar Ravina says you're right. It's different actually. The halach is tiva machres. The guy only announced, I found coins. So therefore, 2 itself is not going to be a simon because the minority of coins is already 2. So rather, what happens is your simon is 2 things. You have to say the number, and you have to say that how it was organized, one on top of the other, and therefore that's going to be your simon. Now, regarding this halacha of the formation of the coins, like a tower or one on top of the other, that's like a simon that it was placed over there, and also it identifies that you could get back your coins. So Rabbi Yomi had the following question: Kishir mahu. What's the halacha if the coins were in the formation of a bracelet in a circle, like a bracelet? Or keshura mahu. What's the halacha if you find it like in a row, one near the other? Or kachatzuva mahu. What's the halacha if you find it like a tripod, like the 3 legs of they would hold up a barrel, like a segel, each one opposite the airspace of the other one? Or kisula mahu. What's halacha if you find it like a ladder, meaning most of the middle one is on the bottom one, and most of the upper one is on the middle one, like steps going up? What would be the halacha? Would you say that this is also the same thing like migdalim? So says Gemara, Pashut Meha, we could resolve from this teaching of Rav Nachman that we're going to quote Chada one of the questions. Rav Nachman says, Kol she'ilu machnas lakisim b'neim. Anything that if you would put a twig beneath them, you could take it at one shot. Then chayav lahachas, then you have to call it out. So like Rashi explains, it's like a ladder that could be taken in one shot by putting a twig beneath it, and therefore that would be the case that you would have to announce. Not related, by Rav Ashi, Rashi says a different case. As you continue Tamid Beis, Ka'avnei Beis Koilis Mahu. This is what's known as one of the names of Avodah Zarah is Mar Koilis. Trace explains why was it called Mar Koilis. It was really called Koilis, but the Gemara is going to explain shortly how they worshipped it. But if you find it like the stones of this Avodah Zarah Beis Koilis, what would the halacha be? So the Gemara says Tashema.
Technically, the whole idea is see and you could tell that the person put it down, not falling off like accidentally, and therefore the person has miyash. So you say, oh, the person put it down.
Yeah.
So why if you put it keshuva or a certain design, you always have questions. If you see it's a nice design, it didn't fall off.
Right. I think that's
it doesn't make a difference what design. Well, let's say it's going to be a square or rectangle or any other shape. Beautifully. Even the shiur is going to be more than a kisum ibn. Let's say it's going to have a shiur of 10 coins, beautifully in a line, and it's going to have 2 kisum ibn. So that's not going to be good enough.
right.
All along, it's either the Rub sees there is a reason that really somebody put it down there, five lachas.
Right. So that's the shaila. I think if that is the identifying feature, or could it have like let's say a line, right? The guy could be walking, has a hole in his pocket. I once had a story that I was at a vert and I had a hole in my pocket and I took a lot of the gumdrops and then there was like a line behind me following. You know what I'm saying?
It's not a round, not an eagle.
He was dancing. I didn't get ingled. It was whatever. So I'm saying you never know. It might have fell out. So maybe have some more gosh, you have to know. Upon them, the Gemara says one of them we can resolve. Tashma learned in the Bryce the Tanya, Mutza Mois Mufazagas. If you find scattered money, the halacha is Hada Elu Shalai. So the halacha is that we know you could keep it. And Ka'avni Beis Kailis, so that's clearly being answered. Chayi Lahachres, that you have to call out. So obviously the Bryce considers that as something that was put down and it wasn't just that it fell. Now what is this case that we say, okay, for sure that was put down? Is achas mekan, achas agabein. The way they used to do it, they would have one stone on one side, one stone on the other side, and have the third one, half on each one. That's also something that it's not mistaba that it fell, similar to the case of Migdalin, and therefore that would be another case if you find it like that you would have to call it out. Now, regarding this idea of coins, the Gemara said, "Turn about the Bryce. If someone finds a coin in the street, and his friend says, Shalihi, this is my money. Chadashi, I'll describe it to you. It's new. Nurain, it's from the Caesar Niroin that's written on it, or Shamelch Pliny, it's from that king." Says the Gemara, Lo Yamaklum. Says the Bryce, he hasn't said anything. But not only that, he has his name written on it. Lo Yamaklum, he hasn't said anything. and you don't have to give it back to him. There is no identifying feature for a coin. What do you mean? The Amakas you say, Dilma Fuke Afka, maybe he used it. It fell from someone else. The fact that you wrote on your coin, you have these little, they track these things, people write on dollar bills, they want to see where it ends up, and it doesn't mean anything because that money is meant to be spent, and if you don't have to give it back to the person. In the halacha, the next Mishnah, continue on this halacha of that it's not yours, and that and actually this Mishnah is different. We spoke about Harei L'Shaloi, we spoke about Chayv L'Hachas, and this Mishnah actually tells us don't do anything. You don't have to give it back, but you can't keep it. You actually should leave it as it is. Says the Mishnah, Motza Achar Gapa. If you find something behind a fence made out of wood, made out of reeds, or Achar Geder, which is a wall made out of stone. If you find Gezalis Mukushachim, you find bound birds. So let's say you find it in paths in the fields. You're not supposed to touch them. The Gemara is going to explain what's the reason for that. Now another halacha, Motze Kli Ba'ashpa. If you find the vessel in the garbage dump, so if it's covered again, this is the same halacha. Is interesting. It's not Harei L'Shaloi, it's not Chayv L'Hachas. Don't touch it, because as Rashi explains, it's not an aveda that you should be. You're warned. Don't turn away from it because it's protected over there. The guy has it over there. Now in Megula, if you find it in a garbage dump uncovered, then you take it and you call it out. So the Gemara explains, my time, what's the reason in the first halacha when you find these birds, these tied birds, do you not touch it? Do you leave it as it is? Because we say, people had to hid it over there. He put it behind the wall. If you're going to take it, less little simon to the count, you're going to make it worse for the guy. He's not going to have a simon to identify it, but he left it over there. He'll leave it there until the owner comes along and he takes it. But he put his jacket over there, whatever it is, and then you're going to take it. He has no simon. You're going to make it worse. So these birds, there's no simon, but he had to go somewhere and he left it over here. Leave it. So it says about my, why is it something that's not a simon? No, take it and call it out. Have a kesha simana. But you said that the bird was tied, so let the knot be a sign. So he says no, but was tied by its wings. Everyone ties like that, and therefore there's nothing special about how it's tied, and therefore it wouldn't be a simon. Says have a makom simon. What do you mean? What's the problem? Let the makom, let the place of where it is, let that be a simon. My book of Bacham says no, but medadim, we're talking about where these birds are hopping from one place to the next place, and therefore makom can't be a simon because they're moving. Says wait a second, even medadim, if they're hopping, ma'alma asu, that means it came from somewhere else. In other words, there's 2 points, as Rashi explains. That means it wasn't hinuach, wasn't placed over here. And second of all, since there's no simon of them, so you should say Harei L'Shaloi, because it's just like coins that fell, where you don't know where it is, and it wasn't placed over here, and there's no simon. So you should be actually mutar, it should be permitted. So you're right, but you're not right. So you could say it came from somewhere else, because they were hopping. But you could say a person hid it over here because they are tied their wings. So probably suffix inuach. So it's like what's called, we're not sure if it's placed over here. Could have been placed, could have been maybe not, because it could have happened from somewhere else. So it's called suffix inuach. Anytime you're not sure if someone placed something down that does not have a simon, and for sure when you know for sure he put it down over here, look at initially you shouldn't take it, because if you're going to take it, the owner doesn't have a simon to give, and there's going to be a loss from him. So therefore, don't take it. And the owner's going to remember, and he's going to come and take it where he put it. And not if you took it, so you don't put it back because no one could give a simon. Which, as Taisa actually qualifies, he says that's only because if you walked away with it and you went back home, there's no point in bringing it back because the owner might have come in the interim, and now he's not going to come back, and there's no simon. But if you took it and you didn't move from there, you're there the whole time. You saw the owner didn't come, then so it says, you would put it down. Why wouldn't you put it down? And then the owner would come and get his thing. Now the Halacha Mishnah says. So if someone finds a utensil in the garbage dump, so it depends. If it's mechus, if it's covered, don't touch it, because the owner hid it over there. It was a good hiding spot for him. But magula, if it's uncovered, which obviously is not hidden, people could take it. So then you take it and you call it out. Says it seems to be contradicted from the following brisa. The brisa says, if you find the vessel hidden in a garbage dump, says the brisa, you take it and you call it out. Why? Because that's the norm of garbage dumps, that they get cleared out. If you're not going to take it now when it's getting cleared out, so either a non-Jew is going to take it or a suspected Jew. So therefore, it's a loss, and therefore you have a prohibition, you're obligated to go and return it. So that seems to be a contradiction. Our Mishnah says if it's covered, you don't take it. The Brisa says you do take it and call it out. So what's the halacha? So Amr Zvid like Kasha says not difficult because he says, the halacha of our Mishnah says you don't touch it is bekubi bekasi. It's barrels and cups, and those are things that we assume they're big items. They wouldn't just get lost. We assume that they were hidden there deliberately. The Brisa is talking about sakini v'hamnik. They're talking about knives and these Y-shaped type of a tool where they're very small, as the Gemara explains. Bekubi bekasi regarding barrels and cups. Those were deliberately hidden over there. So legally, don't touch them. But sakina v'hamnik, which are small little utensils, they get lost. We have this every Shabbos when you throwing away the plastic. There's a spoon over here, right? They get thrown out into the garbage out of the house. So then, that if you find the garbage dump, you take it and you call it out. Which the Gemara later is going to ask, why are you saying shekin derech hashbul lipanis? What does it have to do with because it's the normal for garbage dumps to be cleared out? That's not a svara and explaining for small items. But the Gemara will explain that. That's one approach. The Gemara brings another approach. Rav Papa, he says, hava kubi v'kasi. No, both of them are talking about large objects of these barrels and these cups, which were deliberately hidden over there. But it says the Gemara it's not difficult because the Brisa that says you have to call it out is be'ashbas or lipanis. Is a garbage dump that usually is cleared out, so that's going to be a loss. Even if you deliberately put it, it's going to be taken out to a sanitation to Staten Island. You're never going to find it ever again. The Mishnah that says don't touch it, it's not usually cleared out. It stays there for months and months. So the guy needed a good hiding spot. He don't want his wife to know he's going to surprise her for her birthday with a brand new kabi vakasi, so he hid it over there. So don't touch it. So the Gemara asks, wait a second. The Brisa that says you have to call it out is ashba asul lefanis is a garbage that's usually cleared out. Aveda medasi, that's a deliberate loss where the guy should have realized that says the garbage usually cleared out. Why would he hide over there something? Then you shouldn't even have to call it out. You should be able to keep it because if someone deliberately was throwing it away. Taylor rather says the Gemara, no, the Brisa is ba'ashba she'ein asul lefanis. No, you're right. It's not usually cleared out and v'nimlechel lefanaisa. And actually now they changed their mind. Suddenly they went on strike. The workers are coming now and they're declaring it out right now. So now it's becoming an aved. It was deliberately put over there. And the reason why you should clear it out is because now they're gonna now you should call it out because they're clearing it out. So the Gemara says, okay, those are two different approaches. But the Gemara says, Bishul Papa, the second approach, that's what the Brisa is saying. Shekin derech ashpa lipanis, that as we explained, meaning that the owner of the garbage dump changed his mind and he's clearing it out right now. So now it's an Aveda, so therefore go ahead and call it out. But El Razvid, that he said that it has nothing to do with clearing out the garbage. It's always that case. Because these are small things that the guy lost. He must have thrown out with the tablecloth when they cleaned up the table. So what do you mean that it's normal for it to clear out the garbage? It has nothing to do with that. Even if it wasn't. Even though they're not clear for months and months, the guy must have lost it over there. Says the Gemara, no, sheken derech ashbul lepanis lo kilm getanim. What it means to say is that it's normal for garbage to be cleared out, meaning that small vessels are cleared out to the garbage dump from the house unintentionally, and therefore, if you find that fork, if you find that little thing, therefore that's something that you have to call out, and that's how you would read according to Rav Zvid. Thank you. Anytime.